Good morning, Brandon here, Luth here in Indianapolis. Today I've got a regular customer that I've done this quite a few times for. His original request for this was a custom shop telly that he had, and he wanted the guitar, believe it or not, he wanted the guitar to be a little brighter. He wanted a little more high-end and high-mid bite in the guitar. Rather than swapping pickups, what I really recommended was replacing the 250K pots with 500K, and then replacing the tone caps, which I think were 47s. I suggested replacing those with 15 microfarad, actually 0.015 microfarad tone caps. Eric Clapton referred to the 0.0015s as woman tone, and what it is the lower the value of the cap, in other words, 15 or 0.015 microfarads is lower than 0.047 microfarads, the more high end and the more upper mids you get in the signal. Plus, the higher the value of the pot, the greater the resistance between your signal and ground is, which also allows more of the pickup, what the pickup produces, to go out of the guitar, the jack into the signal cable or the wireless, whatever. Which gives you more of the pickup, which also results in a little more high end. He loved it. It turned out, it was bright, but it turned out exactly how he liked it. And so now we're slowly going through his whole collection, which includes quite a few custom shop Gibsons and a Strat, to do those type of upgrades. I've done it on one Les Paul. I've got another one, a Les Paul of his. It's a custom shop, but I'm just waiting for the longer pots to come in to fit through the top. What I'm working on today is an ES335, and I'm just going to show you, how to do this. Now, the first thing I did, let me get something, I'll be right back. So the first thing I did was to take my now, let me go back up. On a guitar with humbuckers, to brighten it up, they typically have 500K pots and a 0.022, or I'm just going to call it 22 microfarad tone pot, a tone jack, tone capacitor. I've had my coffee this morning. So on a humbucking guitar of his, I've been going with 1 meg pots, again the 0.015 microfarad tone caps, and in all the guitars we've also put treble bleeds on the volume pots. So the first thing I do with a guitar like a Gibson or any other that has the typical parallelogram pot outlay is I have this board that I built that allows me to put 4 pots in it, and then I pre-build my wiring diagram while the pots are mounted in this. What that means on a Gibson style guitar like this is I've already put the ground wire all the way around all 4 pots, and I've also put the treble bleeds on, and I put the tone caps in, and of course I heat shrinked everything. So now all I have to do is pull the pickup wires and the output jack wire, actually just the pickup wires, up through, connect them to the 2 pots, the 2 volume pots, and then feed it all back through the F-hole, and the guitar should be wired. Sometimes when I do these, I do have to also remove the output jack just so I can get the wires, all the wires I need, up through the F-hole here. On some guitars, it actually is helpful to depending on whether it has a center block or not, and this one does, so it probably wouldn't help, is unlike a lot of full hollow bodies, I actually pull the wires up through the bridge pickup hole, but when they have the block in the middle like a lot of the new guitars do, it's not as easy as it sounds, so I typically just try to feed them all through the F-hole. So we're going to go through that process. One of the things I also do when I'm doing this, which we'll cover in just a second, I'll pause this and we'll re-edit it, is the very top of the shaft of each pot, I put a color code on it so I know which hole it's supposed to go back through. And then I'll show you one of the tricks that I use to get pots up through an F-hole. But we're going to pick that up. Again, I didn't go through building this. It's kind of bland. Maybe the next one I'll do the building of a wiring harness. Okay, so that way with the old one, all I have to do is unsolder the pickup leads and pull everything out through the guitar F-hole, and I'm ready to put the new one in. Okay, be right back in just a minute. All right, one of the first things I also did here is I have this low-tack tape. I get it from StewMac. There's other places that carry it. It's very, very low tack. You can leave it on a guitar, even with a nitro finish, for days, and it won't imprint on the finish, and it shouldn't. I've never had a problem with it lifting a finish, versus regular masking tape. So this will also protect the top of the guitar while I'm removing the knobs and removing the pots and trying to feed everything through. It'll help protect the top so that I won't, get any little dings or extra scratches on it. The guitar is in really good condition, so I don't want to add any new scratches to it. So the first thing I'm going to do, of course, is using this Shatton designed knob puller, which is kind of like a small gear puller if you've ever done any automotive work. And I'm just going to pull the pots off, the knobs off the pots. Now the downside to this kind of a puller on any of them is every now and then when you have the push-pull pots, is that if the knob is really, really tight, it'll pull the shaft right up out of the push-pull pot. It's a pain in the neck, but it happens. Okay, there's one down. Two down. Well, I'm getting to it. Two down. This thing works great. I've got two of them just in case one ever breaks. Guitars original as they see fit. All right, next I'm going to take these nuts off. Typically, these are, for most Gibsons and other US guitars of higher quality, they're typically 13 millimeter nuts. Just gonna pop them off there. And of course, except for the pointer washers that have the little arrow on them, I will provide all the nuts and washers and everything back with the wiring harness as well, just by screwing them onto the pots where they go. Okay, we're going to pop these off, set them aside. Now these, I'm going to put in my gut pail because they're going to go back on the new pots. Now then, I should be able, I'm going to draw out my color wheel. So here's the switch. Bridge tone or volume, bridge tone, neck volume, neck tone. I'm going to go with blue for bridge, green for the tone pot, red for neck, and I'll leave the tone pot for the neck blank. So those are going to be the new pots that I'm going to put in. So let's see how well I can fish this out of there. Probably going to need this, so I'm going to cut that out with a sharp X-Acto knife right along the outline of the F-hole. And they need that hole just to be able to help stick a finger down in there to help get stuff pulled up out. Okay, here we go. Now again, sometimes I do have to remove I'm just using a simple little hook to help pull those up to where I can see them. Again, sometimes I may have to undo right. Well, these are big ones, but they got in there through the F-hole. I'm going to have to make sure I can fish them out through the F-hole. Almost there. Here it comes. Again, I'm not using a lot of force. I'm just trying all right, there's one. Again, you can see how much fun this is. Now I'll get number two. Usually once you get the first one, the other one is easy. The other ones come up a little easier. It just depends on where the ground for the output jack is soldered. If it's soldered to the neck pickup tone pot, I'm probably going to have to drop the output jack. But again, I have a tool to feed the jack back through. There is a process here. And typically these are all wired in sequence because they're, so that is the output going back to the switch right there, okay, for the bridge pickup. So this is, oh, somebody wrote B on here with in red Sharpie. Okay, so I'm going to call that is definitely the bridge pickup lead. So what I'm going to do at this point is using some orange masking tape, and a fine point Sharpie, I'm going to write bridge. And then I'm going to put that on the wire for the bridge pickup. So this is the bridge pickup wire coming into the end lug of the here, and then that wire is the output to the tone pot. So all I have to do for the bridge pickup, there they are. And then coming up next is going to be the neck pickup. It's just a horseshoe. So all I have to do now is unsolder that and then pull the other ones up out through there. And I'm going to just go ahead and do that now that you've seen how I do it. Again, to get the final pot, I may have to pull the jack. That's easy enough to do. If I do, I'll edit this and include that. For now, I'm going to wait for my soldering iron to heat up, and then we'll come back to do the jack and put the other pots in. All right, so I have the complete, I did have to remove the complete wiring harness from the 335, simply because, yeah, the wire from the tone pot for the neck pickup to the output jack was, too short, typical. But then also I had to remove the switch because those wires are short. The other thing is the wiring harness that I had built. I had built this for his Les Paul, which had the wire that went all the way around, and then just jumpers, unlike this wiring configuration, which is all of the braided shielding the whole way. So I had to remove the grounding wire that was connecting it all, because they're using the ground wire for the output of the bridge pot is soldered and shielded to the bridge tone, which is then soldered and shielded to the neck tone, and then the neck volume, and then that's the bridge pickup output. So they're using the bridge pickup output to connect all four pots together. Not a bad idea. It just made getting this last pot with the switch attached to it out was a bit of a chore. It just took me a while, but you saw the process. That's how it is. So now what I'm going to do is unsolder the neck and then put these two in. And then when that's done, I will unsolder the bridge connections and put this in. So, and that way I'll leave everything intact. As much as I can, although again, I'm not going to be giving him back a full wiring harness, because I'm going to keep all of the original wires and just replace the pots, the tone caps, and the bleed. So just going to go ahead and get started on that. This is just basic soldering, so it's not anything super interesting to watch. But I think the first thing I'm going to do, again, I'll do this side and get these two done. So I'm going to keep the switch in the output jack, and again, I want to keep as much of the original wiring, and then when those two are done, I'll do these two, and then we'll come back to feed it all in. Again, this is just basic soldering, so make sure you've got a good soldering station, a good clean tip, and wipe your tip between each connection. Taking it apart is again, just keep your tip clean the whole time. And as I'm doing new connections, we'll come both of those. So, just to get started, first thing I'm going to do is pull these three grounds. And this is where having this block of wood makes this much easier. So I can pull them all individually. And sometimes it helps to have a tool, because if you try to, oh, there we go. They all come off. Got it hot enough where they all come off at once. Perfect. So I'm going to wipe the tip in my Brillo. I call it my Brillo pad, but it's the brass wire to clean excess solder. And then I've got the sponge where I wipe the tip, keep the tip nice and shiny and clean. I'm going to do these two. Now, one of the things that made this harder to get everything out was where they soldered the ground to the side. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put all in the back of the pot. All right, that one came off nice and easy. So I think the last one I'm going to do is the center tap for the volume on the neck pickup. which is the output to the switch. So this one's been twisted on there, going to take a little bit of doing. There we go. Got it. Okay. So now I just got to put those two pots in. So I can pull these two and put that signal wire between them. I'm going to pull the nuts and stuff off so they sit down in there a little deeper. I also want to compare. All right, yep, these are just as deep as the originals, so I don't need the nut on the inside, I just need the washer. So I'm going to set the nuts and washers aside. And of course, I have pre-tinned multiple connections on the back of all the pots. That's the first thing I do when I put them in the block, is just tin multiple solder points on the back. So if I have to connect extra wires, I have plenty of solder in place to do that. So now we're just going to remove the, something I like to do as well. Where is my, just had it, there it is. I put a rubber band on a pair of pliers and then use it to, a lot of times, just to grab onto stuff and hold it. There's one, that's the tone pot. So it's going to go from, ouch, it's still hot. A little bit different than the wiring harness on the Les Paul. I'm just going to make some mods here to mine that I made to accommodate all that. Okay. Looking at this, the way this, I'm going to redo it. We'll come back to that. All right, I did have to completely rebuild, well, not completely, but I did have to rebuild my new wiring harness for the simple fact that the way it was wired to go in the Les Paul was I had the wiring method where the tone pot goes between the volume pot and the tone pot from that, but that would make it more difficult to feed all this back through the F-holes. So I went with the original wiring configuration where the tone pots are to the center tab of the tone caps are from the center tap of the tone pot to ground on the back of the pot, and then the signal comes into the end tab on both of these. That way it's more flexible in between here to be able to feed those through, but everything is wired exactly as it was originally. All I have to do now is hook up the incoming wires from the pickups, so the neck pickup will go here, and then the bridge pickup will go here to the outer tabs of both pots, because the output then is from the center tab all the way out to the switch. Oh, I see one spot I missed. That's why I'm doing my final visual inspection here. So I need to resolder that center tab on this one. Just needs a I didn't solder the signal wire in. I did the ground wire, but I always do a visual inspection before I hook up the pickups. And then the last thing I'll do, which we'll get a video of, is that after I hook up the pickups, but before I start feeding it through the F-hole, is I will plug it in and test it to make sure everything is working, okay? Because the last thing I want is to go through all the trouble and time of feeding everything through the F-holes and then something doesn't work. So I'm going to test it all before I put it in, and then I will do it again once I get the bridge pickup, I'm sorry, the neck pickup, the jack, the neck pickup pots, and the switch in place. I will test it again to make sure I didn't bust anything loose, okay? So we'll come back as I start getting that fed in. All right, I've got the pickup soldered in, and I plugged in the output jack. So now I'm just going to give the system a full test. This should be that's the neck pickup and neck pickup tone. All right, now the bridge pickup and the bridge pickup tone. All right, everything is working. So now the trick is going to be to shove it all back inside. So we'll start with the output jack, because that has to go in first. But the first thing I'm going to do before I hook, connect to the jack is my trick is to run short pieces of heat shrink tubing through. So this is for the bridge pickup tone. I may have to get my forceps here, hang on. Okay, so what I do is I run a piece of heat shrink up through, and so this is for the bridge pickup tone. Actually, we're going to do the neck pickup tone first, because that's got to go in before the bridge pickup stuff does. So I'm going to run a piece of heat shrink up through here for the neck pickup tone. And this is the neck pickup tone pot. So we're going to shrink that right on there. Now this is not going to be a super hard grip. In other words, I'm not going to be able to put a lot of pull with a lot of force, but it will help me guide that pot in to the proper hole. Okay, now I need the tool for the output jack. Usually I have all my tools ready to go. So here's the output jack, so I'm going to feed this up through here. This is also the tool I use to do output jacks on acoustic guitars. So there is, I gotta take the nut and the washer off first, leaving the lock washer on the inside, okay? So then this hard, you don't know how many times I've dropped a lock washer inside a cavity like that. It happens. So we shall try again. Need a little bit more. There we go. So, and this goes on the output jack, just clips in place. Now I can start pulling everything up through. So we're going to start with the output jack. This takes, there we go, it's in. And then from there, we're going to go with the neck pickup tone pot. Now, I am concerned that this might not all fit in with the bleed capacitors, the bleed circuits on there. It's possible that I might have to remove those, but we're going to give it the college try. Okay, so here goes the neck pickup tone pot. I put the wrong end of the, we're gonna have to redo that. I put the wrong end of the heat shrink on it. So I need to pull it back up out of there. Put the right end of the, let me do this. See if I can't put this through and get a hold of it with the forceps. Oh, I know another thing. Necessity is a mother, and it'll make you invent stuff. So I'm going to feed a piece of Gibson braided wire up through here. Grab it with the forceps rather than redoing my heat shrink tubing. And now I can use that to guide the heat shrink tubing end up and out, so I can grab it with the forceps. Problem solved. All right. Now what I can do with this pot is, as I get it fed back in to the F-hole for the second time, is I can use that heat shrink tubing to help pull that pot into place. Again, it's not a real strong, the heat shrink tubing is not a super strong grip, so I am going to have to kind of finagle it a little, just like I'm going to have to finagle this tone cap, or the bleed circuit in there the best I can. It may not go. I'm going to have to try to feed the bleed circuit end in first, and that means I got to put the switch in there. Get that out of the way. Okay. Now we're going to try again. This way might work. This way might work. Oh, I think we're going to pull it off. And I pulled it off. Okay. Now, try to work that tone pot. Now, it's close enough where I can just get a hold of the, I may have to get a finger in there to help guide it. There's the pot. There we go. I have the tone pot. Now what I can do is slip the washer, the flat washer, sorry, there's some kinks in the heat shrink that's causing me to forget it on there. The flat washer and the nut down onto the shaft. So I can get a finger up in there to hold it in place. And get the flat washer and the nut on it. Boom. Okay, now I can take the heat shrink off. I can work the output jack up. Now put the washer and the nut on for the output jack. I'm not going to snug all this down. I'm just going to get it in place, and I'll go, when it's all in and it's all tested, I'll tighten everything up. Okay, input jack and the neck pickup tone pot are in. Now the neck pickup volume pot is close enough that I can probably just work it in with my fingers. If not, it'll be easy enough to put a pizza heat shrink on. But typically I can put the neck volume pot in just by, whoops, got to put the lock washer on the inside. Oh, there we go. Get in there. Good. Now, just going to kind of force it into place with my fingers. Here it comes. Yeah, my big concern was being able to get the treble bleed circuits into the in there, but it looks like I pulled it off. Here's what I'm looking for. I just need to push that shaft over. There it comes. All right, there's the neck pickup volume pot. Again, just going to put a flat washer and the nut on, but not torque it down just yet. Next thing to do, believe it or not, is the switch. And this one also very often benefits from the use of the heat shrink trick. Oh, pull that label off of there for the pickup wire. Good. Okay, now we're going to try to pull the switch in. So, and as you've seen through this whole video, this is why it costs more to do electronics repair on these hollow bodies, because you get involved into quite a bit of time of fishing everything up and through and all that. Right, I'm going to put the switch that way. Oops. And you do have to try to be semi-careful with the switch that you don't bend any of the posts for the two. It's got two switches in it. You don't want to bend any of that hardware, then the switch won't work. There we go. Now I can grab it. Again, we'll finagle it in place later. I just want to get it in. And here is the nut for that. Just kind of get it in place. And just for fun, I'm going to put the knob on. Okay? So it's just that process of feeding everything back in. I'm going to feed in the bridge pickup pots, and then we'll give it a test run. All right, all the pots are in. Final test before I tighten everything up. All right, bridge, volume, bridge tone, neck volume, and neck tone. We are just tighten everything up, and we're good to go. So to tighten up the jack, I just use the what's it called? Jack the gripper. Okay. So it goes in, and it's got a concentric thing on it. I put it in, and it will hold the jack in place while I tighten in the other direction. 2, 3. And I use these one size fits all guitar nut wrench. All right, jack is tight. Now we're just gonna get the right size socket, and we'll do these. There we go. Let me double check. Got it, okay. Well, for these, there's plenty of stiff wire, and I'm just gonna reach a finger in and hold them and tighten them down. If they've got lock washers in, they're really not gonna move much. It wasn't too hard. The trick I found to putting it in with the treble bleeds was to put the treble bleed cap in first, and then everything just fell right into place, no worries. And then last, I got that special tool for the switch. The trick to these two is just getting them in so that they are perfectly straight up and down. It's just going to hold the body of the switch while you tighten it. A little more tension on this. Got it. And again, I'm just going to give it a quick test because I was poking my fingers in there. Everything's perfect. Pull off my tape, pop the knobs back on, and call it a day. Alrighty, thanks for watching. A little bit of this was boring, I know, but that's why it costs a little more to put all new electronics, or even to replace a pot. Even if you want to replace that pot, you got to pull everything out to get to it and then put it all back in. So I did work on a one Gibson, I don't remember, it was a 335, but it actually had a back panel cut into the back from the factory. And that was heaven, but they don't do it. So, alrighty, see you on the next video. Take care. Quick addendum is I forgot to put the pointer, so I got to pull them, take the nuts off and redo the 4 pots. No big deal. But as they were in the little plastic container I had all the knobs in, and when I went to pull the knobs out, I saw those silly things there, and all my talking about liking them. So now I just got to remove the regular flat washers. And now in these situations, though, I forgot, I do like to put the regular flat washer over the top. It just helps keep it from spinning while I'm tightening it down. Because once I get the Now I'm just holding my finger against the needle or the pointer or the arrow, whatever you want to call it. Tighten it down. And we're golden, okay? Just do the same thing for the other 4. Make sure the pot's turned all the way up. Put the knob on so the 10 is lined up with the arrow. And on to the next one. All right, now I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.